right? Seems like we're going now.
Seems like we are. Bonding Over Beers, episode 001, where we'll take a look at Dr. No, starring Sir Thomas Sean Connery. May he rest in peace.
Thomas?
Yeah, apparently.
Really?
Yeah, I just found that out today. I thought it was fancy.
Yeah, that is fancy. He has a brother as well that was in a Bond knockoff Italian movie back in the day. I think it's now known as Operation Kid Brother or something like that. And it stars like a bunch of characters from Thunderball. It has both M and Moneypenny in it, like the actual actors.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But this one, we don't get an opening scene. Usually we have a big opening action scene.
That's right. This one we're straight into the rifling scene, as we like to refer to it.
Mm-hmm. With like a xylophone?
I'm wondering if it's a stylophone.
What's the difference exactly?
Well, a xylophone's very much an electronic thing, but I'm not sure when they were actually invented. It might be a little bit later than this. So, in which case it probably couldn't be.
It almost sounds like a Jack-in-the-Box.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's just a bunch of weird space noises, and it's a strange opening. It doesn't really suit the subject matter.
Well, it sounds like it should be really a little bit spacey. And on top of that, with the dots, and they've got this sort of elongated, rounded bars that show up. It really makes me think of really old sci-fi decor. Like maybe something like from Star Trek or Blake 7 or something.
I'm almost leaning a little bit further back, something like a 1950s cheap sci-fi B movie or something. The end of the film, that whole set, that whole Ken Adams set, it looks like something straight out of an old school sci-fi movie as well. So maybe that's what they were going for. I don't know. It's a very strange opening, and that it has like you said, like those colorful shapes dancing around screen, and then it goes into like a calypso beat.
Oh, it's very disjointed.
It's so jarring, going from the Monty Norman Bond theme right into that beat, and then into Three Blind Mice.
And there's no easy transition from one to another. It's very abrupt. I
do like how they go. You see the silhouettes of the three men with the walking canes.
Yeah, that was well done. Mm-hmm. That was well done.
But I was surprised rewatching it that Ken Adam was involved with the production design this early on. I thought he didn't come in till at least Thunderball, but no, he's right there super early. Very nice visual flourishes, and most of them have to do with the sets. Young as a director, I didn't really look up how much money they had to make this movie. There's a lot of character actors from television shows at the time. It's not like a big, huge deal. Terrence Young isn't, I wouldn't say he's a particularly artistic director. I think that's a polite way of putting it. What are you drinking tonight?
Well, I managed to find myself a Red Stripe.
Fitting.
Let's see. And this does actually claim to be bottled in Jamaica. Now, how true that is, I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's go here.
Just like Guinness is canned in Ireland. I was sitting there trying to rack my brain and thinking, what kind of beer goes well with Dr. No? And then it hit me when I was rewatching it today before we did this. I was like, Red Stripe! How is it? I remember enjoying Red Stripe quite a bit whenever I had it.
Okay, so let's see. It's pretty crisp. That's quite nice. There's a touch of malts in there somewhere. Kind of makes it quite smooth.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe just like a touch of citrus, touch of grassiness. So it makes it a good one for a nice hot day, I think. You could probably have a couple and still feel alright. So, yeah, I'm going to enjoy this one, I think. How about you?
I always go with, I just sort of went with my regular go-to these days, and that's a Bone Shaker. I don't know, I didn't know what else to get. And it's a 7.1. I guess you could call it an IPA, even though it basically just says beer.
Yeah, I think it'd be an IPA.
It's definitely.
You went for a 7%. Am I that difficult to put up with?
Sometimes you just need to blank out the entire day. But no, it's weird. I can't drink this on tap. It's actually with you that had Bone Shaker the first time ever. And this is like, we're going back over a decade now. Well over a decade. And I'd be drinking, just normal human beers at the pub. And it was you or someone else, I think you know who I'm speaking of, who poured me one of these and were like, hey, try this. It was probably the other person. And every single time I would have it, it would be at the end of the night, and I would wake up the next morning feeling like a bag of stir-fried assholes. And it was because of the Bone Shaker. But now I drink it just as, it's sort of my go-to beer, because I don't do well with a lot of carbs and stuff like that. So if I can just have like 3 or 4 Bone Shakers, I'm good, right? You get a nice little buzz on. For whatever reason, out of a can, it doesn't bother me as much as on tap. Have you had Bone Shaker?
Yeah, I've tried it. It's a bit strong for me on a regular day-to-day.
Mm-hmm.
But if I happen to be out somewhere and I saw it, I wouldn't turn it down. But I also probably wouldn't have more than one.
Yeah, it's everywhere now too, so it must be extremely popular. And it's affordable. I really enjoy pineapple notes in a beer, and I'm a huge IPA lover, but like you said, it's not I don't drink beer every day. Like, I have it on the weekends. I drink beer like probably once a week. I'll have like a few. If this was like if I was having a pint after work, there's no way I'd be drinking a Bone Shaker, So as we said, it goes from the Three Blind Mice song right into a murder, just straight out of the gate.
Yep. And the 3 supposedly blind men walking down the street, their silhouettes against the fence, and then all of a sudden, speaking of Bone Shakers, they're in the back of that hearse,
Mm-hmm.
which is a strange choice for a getaway car, I think.
Mm-hmm. This is almost scene for scene the book at this point. There are some expository bits in the novel and stuff that are a little bit different or stretched out, but all of this is pretty accurate to the book so far. And I think for the majority of this film, it's similar to Ian Fleming's original novel, which was the 6th book overall. And this is where things were starting to get a little
6th?
crazy. Yeah.
Okay. It's an interesting choice to start here, then.
Mm-hmm.
But I tell you what, if you've read the book, maybe you can answer me one question that I've never really understood from the beginning of this movie.
Okay.
Is why was it necessary for them to take the bodies of Strangways and his secretary? And what they're really after, I think, is the files, right?
Yes. So they're
files on Crab Key and something else.
Mm-hmm. Her name is Trueblood, which is a very on the nose name, especially since in the book Fleming has a very, let's just call it, a very interesting way of describing these islanders, specifically the people who are working for Dr. No, because they're half Chinese, and we'll say African American as they are Jamaican. It gets a little cringy at times, especially in the book it does, not in the movie. It sort of reminds me of that family member at a dinner who, when they're describing a story, they have to tell you exactly, so there was this Indian guy, and it's like, how is that relevant to the story? That's how it feels a little bit. It's definitely dated. But it seems like he really enjoys throwing that stank around. It's like every character. He does use a lot of descriptors in his books, just in general. Everything, like if someone's wearing a watch, he explains the year it was made, where it came from. He was a big fan of specific tastes and everything from clothing to food to women, really. It's very much the same beats as the book. We go from here to basically the casino, where we are introduced to Bond himself, slowly.
Mm-hmm. But first, we're introduced to Trench. Sylvia Trench.
Sylvia Trench.
Which I thought was interesting, the way she introduced herself, and then Bond responds in kind.
Bond.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because that sort of sets up his manner of introducing himself for every movie to come. Right? She sort of sets the mold for him. It's almost like he copies her.
Trench, aka Lady Eyebrows. Like, what is she doing? That's what I'm saying about the actors sometimes in this movie. They're a little iffy.
Right.
She's acting with her eyebrows. Every scene she's in, her eyes are doing something weird.
I'm not sure I was looking at her eyes, to tell the truth.
Oh, hello there. But every scene, like later, a little bit later on, there's a kissing scene, and she's just, her eyes, her one eyebrow's up, and her eyeball is just staring at him as he's like, I mean,
now that is awkward. That is awkward.
She's an attractive lady, but she is an eyebrow actor. It's a cool introduction. It's iconic, really. Everything about it, he's so icy cold in this movie. From beginning to end, it's like a totally different character than we'd eventually get to know in the later campier movies.
Poor old Bond's pulled away from her briefly to go meet his boss. He gets called into the office where he's told he's using the wrong gun.
Take off your jacket. Give me your gun.
Yeah, and what I think is super interesting about this is the books should be read chronologically. There is a lot of narrative continuity, and I believe the one before this, I think the 5th novel is From Russia with Love, where the end of that book and movie, we'll get there with the next episode, but it's Rosa Klebb, and he basically has to spend like 6 months in hospital. So this is all the result of his gun jamming. So they're trying to swap out his gun. The one thing I really like, and it's a scene in the book too that I really like, is something about him hating M. The moment where he makes him swap out his gun is the one moment he can recall really disliking M. I'm not sure if this was intentional or not. When Bond is putting the gun down on M's desk, he points the barrel towards him.
I did notice that. And then slides it forward.
Mm-hmm. And there's like a look of disgust on his face. It's a nice touch.
Now, one of the things that does make me wonder is he does make the comment that he basically never misses with his old Beretta.
I've used the Beretta for 10 years. I've never missed with a jet.
And then there's the scene where he's trying to shoot out the lights that are on the dragon.
Okay.
You know, I can imagine that's probably a pretty hard thing to do in the dark when, you know, these things are shining at you. However, he does put off quite a few shots that miss. So it does make me wonder, maybe the Beretta would have been better for him. I don't know what he's regularly like in that sort of situation. So,
and he swaps to the Walter right away, right?
Yeah.
That's the new gun.
He doesn't get any extra training or time on the range or anything, because he has to hand over his old gun, his old Beretta, immediately on the desk there.
In the book, it's explained that M has basically sent Bond on, it's almost like a holiday mission. It's supposed to be something super simple, dealing with guano. Now, that's different in the movie.
Yeah, I believe in the movie, the material's bauxite, whereas guano would have, once upon a time, been used for fertilizer, and I think would have been a component in explosives. Historically speaking, I don't think they use bat guano for explosives anymore. I think they've got other resources for that.
Yeah, because there's a lot of explanation of guano in the book. Like, they spend a hell of a lot more time on the island in the book, to the point where it kind of drags on. I actually think the film is better paced. I find myself starting to lose interest when they get to the island. There's a lot of stuff with Honeychild Rider on the island too that is just all superfluous. It feels masturbatory, both figuratively and possibly literally. Like, there's a lot of bizarre language around her and stuff in the book that is just unnecessary. The structure's the same. We go to Jamaica. We're looking into this Dr. No character. That's who Strangways and...
Yeah, because the whole first part of the investigation, as it were, does feel very much like here's like this gumshoe investigation. It doesn't feel like any of the other Bond secret missions, right? It very much feels like he's sort of plodding along from one clue to another.
Well, this is the first one as well, so there is that, but I like the pulpy noir style of, especially Fleming's earlier writing. This movie captures it, I think, extremely well. There are no huge action scenes. They do pepper in action where it wasn't before, because you have to. It is a movie. You need to keep it engaging.
Well, you don't want people walking out of the theater.
Exactly. We land in Jamaica, and then you have Steve McGarrett following him around. You notice how, like, everybody in this film has terrific sunglasses? Like, I'm sure my partner actually has the sunglasses that Jack Lord is wearing. But we notice when he lands, everyone wants a piece of Bond. People are taking pictures. They follow him around. Now, in the book here, Quarrel is the one who picks him up.
Ah, interesting. Okay.
And it adds a lot to the book. There are a couple things that the book does a lot better. I like questioning Strangways and True Blood. M thinks they were having an affair or something, and they touch on that in the movie, but in the book it's more of a focus on that, and Quarrel's relationship with Bond. Quarrel was first introduced, I believe, in Live and Let Die, the book.
So the literary Bond already has an established relationship
Yes.
with Quarrel.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in this, they're just meeting down at the beach while Quarrel is just trying to paint his damn boat.
Yeah.
with red paint. So it makes me wonder if he's just trying to put a red stripe down it.
Hey, possibly.
Just to be consistent.
Hey, you get the red stripe followed by the red stripe brawl a little bit later on as well. He takes a ride service, which seems really stupid for a secret agent to be taking a ride service, But again, maybe, I guess he doesn't know anyone in Jamaica because Quarrel isn't his friend in the movie.
Well, he does make the phone call and double checks that nobody's supposed to be picking him up, right?
Right.
So he knows from the get-go this is a setup. He's just going with it.
Take me for a ride.
Let's see where you're going to take me. Let's see what's going to happen here.
Take me for a ride.
And then he thinks that part of the setup is these guys following him as well. He thinks they're on the same side. He doesn't realize that it's Felix Leiter and the CIA who are actually trying to catch up to probably rescue him.
An excuse to have an action scene because it has been, I don't know how long, about 20, 30 minutes, and we haven't really had anything aside from at the time, 1962, shocking gunning sequence, straight out of the gate. That's pretty violent for 1962. It's very blunt. I think that's another thing about this book. Of the Fleming novels, I remember the first time reading this being like, oh, this is a lot more violent. He's really not pulling any punches. The other ones were spy thrillers, but the stakes are all higher in this one, which is kind of ironic because this was supposed to be basically a little bit of an escape from the more dangerous cases.
Just a light caseload for a bit. Take a break. Go see some sun. Hang out on the beach.
Yeah, exactly.
Solve a minor little problem crime we've got in this corner that's off in the realm. Because, of course, Jamaica gained independence in August of 1962, which is the year that this movie was made. Which always made me wonder a little bit, is this sort of like a little bit of a, oh, what are you going to do without our Secret Service sort of taunt? I doubt it particularly, but
Fleming was a patriot. He was.
It might have a bit of that edge to it, yeah.
I think it definitely has something to do with it. I mean, we're speculating, but and you start seeing it in his writing, especially after, I would say after this one. There are a couple other good books, but his early writing is much better. It's much more focused because you have a very clear enemy, and it feels like he mined everything from post-World War II.
Didn't mean to hit on something, but it does sort of give off a little bit of that feel in the background to me.
It's definitely not in your face. The one thing I noticed about this movie, and a lot of the Terrence Young ones, and it was a thing at the time, to speed up film footage.
Now, do you mean for things like car chases and...
Precisely, yeah.
Sort of maybe fights or brawls and things like that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
How do you feel about the look of this movie?
It feels very old. And I think part of that is due to actually them having a lesser budget.
Mm-hmm.
Than things that come later.
I just don't think he's a very artistic director.
There doesn't seem to be an awful lot of special effects. It feels a little bit bare bones. I almost want to separate this movie from the rest of the Bond movies in many ways. Because it doesn't feel like a, quote, Bond movie to me. Mm-hmm. It feels like I'm watching a detective show. A rather enjoyable one, nonetheless, but it feels like a detective show. I feel like I'm watching, he should be speaking all hard-boiled and stuff instead.
That's the books.
It comes across in this movie, then. Maybe they just haven't found their stride yet. Mm-hmm. And then there's a very abrupt change towards the end once they're on the island and in the facility. That then just has a very different feel to it.
Yeah, it does feel like two separate movies. Almost three. For me, it looks beautiful. I have the Blu-ray, and it looks phenomenal. The colors and stuff, the scenery really pops. For whatever reason, there's not a lot of... Sounds like a weird thing to say. There's not a lot of cinematography. We're in Jamaica. Why aren't we locking down that camera and capturing some beautiful vistas?
I'm seeing the sights.
Yeah, the colors are all really nice. Everything really looks beautiful, the grass, the flora.
Well, you're in Jamaica.
Yeah.
Right? But honestly, it feels like you could be in any fill-in-the-blank random place, somewhere Caribbean, or even potentially South Pacific. Like, I mean, some of your characters might have to be a little bit different, but it could be anywhere, is the impression I get from the scenery. You don't really see anything that really stands out. You're like, aha, that is this place. I've never been to Jamaica, so I don't necessarily know what would stand out, but there's nothing that stands out and sort of says, okay, that has to be Jamaica.
And it's a real shame, too. After some sleuthing around, we realized that Quarrel and Strangways would go fishing together. And whether that's for information or whatever else.
And is a friend of Felix Leiter as well, our CIA operative, who's been following Bond around for a little bit.
With his cat glasses.
Yeah.
And his perfect coif.
That's, of course, when we run into our red stripe, as far as this movie's concerned. Literally, we run into the red stripe. In fact, we, run into it and push the boxes all over the place. But I don't know if you noticed. All those boxes are upside down.
I didn't notice that.
Because it was hard for me to read. I'm like, what is going on here? All the boxes are upside down. And I couldn't for the life of me figure out why these boxes are upside down. Do you have a theory off the top of your head?
Something to do with the lidding process? The hot climate?
See, I'm thinking this. Normally, if I bring a case of beer home, I open the top and I put things in the fridge. Right? I put them in one bottle at a time. I'm thinking that if you go back to 1962 and you've got a restaurant, are you keeping your beer for the customers in the fridge? And I'm thinking you might well not. You might instead be keeping them in a big tub of ice. So in which case you'll walk over with your case of beer, put it sideways on the edge of the tub, you'll open the bottom, so that you can basically dump all the beer into the ice, bottom first. Right?
That's a lot of thought.
And then at which point, you now have this box with the bottom open that you want to put the empties back into. Which means that you have to have the box upside down. That's the only thing that I can think of that makes any sense.
It's very logical. That shed they're having the fight scene in with all the red stripe, that's location. I don't think that was a set. So that's as good a reason as any to have them upside down. I didn't notice they were upside down. It's just so identifiable. What a brilliant label red stripe has. Boom. You know exactly what it is. Plus the stubbies. You're drinking a stubby, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. But also, I don't know if this holds any water. It's not an argument against your point. Are they offering those red stripe? Are they offering their beers warm or cold? We drink cold beer, but I know a lot of people, like growing up, I've had dinner with people from everywhere in the world, like family of friends and stuff. Some people drink their beer warm. At least that's my experience. And that's not just like one group of people. That's like a few different households I'd go to. And their older parents would be like, hey, do you want a beer?
Well, if you really want to be traditional about it and go back sort of pre-ice, you wouldn't serve it warm per se preferentially. If you had no other choice, you might go for that. What it actually is it's supposed to be cellar temperature, which is cooler.
Yeah.
It's not room temperature. It's in the cellar. Your lines or whatever are going to bring it up, or you've just brought the keg up or the barrel from the cellar where it's been keeping cooler.
Like a wine.
Not cold, but cooler.
Right.
Yeah, similar to a white wine. Yeah.
A white wine, yes. That's really interesting because that's what they would do. Like one particular family, and I'm talking like these are older generation people. They weren't my age or our age. They were a couple of generations. They'd be like, go over to one person's house and like the grandfathers or something, and we'd be all playing cards and chain smoking cigarettes, right? Because that's just, like all of us would do. But it'd be like, hey, do you want a beer? And it was like, sure. And you open it and you're like, it wasn't warm. It was below room temperature, but not by much. It was basement beer. But your theory, I think you're right on the money there, man. Got to get those beers into a tub of ice super quick.
Otherwise, you're pulling things out one at a time, and that just takes that's too much effort, and it takes too long. Let's face it.
Plus, like breakage too. You got to account for You're doing it one by one, that's more opportunities for a bottle to slip.
I think you just have to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
You'd have to talk to somebody who works in that industry in a similar temperature location at the time.
Right.
I don't think you can, unless somebody has some strange reference to something that is such a particular habit within sort of like a bar industry. Nobody's written that down.
We follow Quarrel around a little bit. We get to meet everyone who's going to be in the picture. Felix Leiter is basically a nobody, which makes me even more pissed off when I watch the movie, especially after reading the book again. We could have just dumped all of that into Quarrel's dialogue. He gets shortchanged in this movie quite a bit. There are very few scenes.
Felix?
Both of them, really. I just feel like there's enough dialogue for barely one person that's getting spread between Quarrel and Felix. So whenever something has to happen dialogue-wise that would be in the book, it's usually Felix that does it instead of Quarrel. He gets shortchanged. He's kind of a coward in the movie, whereas in the book, he's a badass.
Like, I almost feel like we need to get introduced to Felix for the sake of later installment. Honestly, like, so far as the two characters are concerned, I actually quite like Quarrel's character, and Felix's character development is next to nothing.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's pointless to have him.
He's a mannequin in sunglasses.
Why even bother have Felix in the movie? Give all that dialogue to Quarrel. So we get back to the hotel. Bond gets back to the hotel. He starts setting up little traps. So we got Bond gadgets. Do you remember the two Bond gadgets that he uses in the hotel room? Bond gadgets, Bond gadgets, Bond gadgets.
So he utilizes two little pieces of tradecraft, I would call it, in here, as opposed to gadgets. Because we don't have many gadgets, or any gadgets. One is he powders the locks on his briefcase, and sort of like dusts off around so you can't see it. But that way he knows that if somebody has touched it and tried to get into his briefcase and see what paperwork he has flying around.
It's just like talcum powder or something.
Yeah. He does take the time to dust off the leather of the case around it so it's not sort of standing out starkly. And then he sort of does that. You almost need like a little boing as he plucks a hair from his head, right? So something insanely cartoonish is exactly what you need.
As a bald man myself, I was reaching for the screen and going, Connery, hang on to every last one of those.
And then he sort of like licks and pastes it across the crack of the door in case somebody is hiding in the closet, I can only assume.
I tried that as a kid, because I've been watching these movies since I was really young. I tried that. It was like, wonder if that works.
How often did you try it?
You know what I look like, so enough.
I'm no one to talk. I'm not one to talk. So.
Possibly way too many times. But he does all this before he goes and meets Quarrel and stuff. But hey, there we go. In and out. That was easy. Those are the Bond gadgets.
Pretty much. Now he does have his Walk-Free PK. And he does manage to cut a couple of bamboo reeds to use as breathing tubes.
Right.
But outside of that, that's pretty much it. That is it. The rest of it is just words and fists.
We meet up with Quarrel and Felix at the dance club, the bar. They're having a great time. Everyone's having a great time. And one of the people who was at the airport snapping some photos of Connery, she's there. And we get a little altercation. He asks Quarrel to take the film from the camera. And that is exactly the book. She takes the bulb, I think it's the flash bulb, smashes it on Quarrel's face. It's out of character for him in the movie. But in the book, we know who Quarrel is, and he's kind of a badass. But in the movie, it's like that's the only brave thing he does in the movie. Because he's usually kind of panicking and worried and whining. And so it feels out of character in the movie. But we learn that everyone who works for this mysterious person, this villain, would rather die than give up any details.
Yeah, because there's the cyanide cigarette. There is, I forget his name, the doctor. He goes for a last-ditch effort to fire his gun without any bullets left. That's a Smith & Wesson.
And you've had your 6.
It's a Smith & Wesson. And you've had your 6.
Probably my favorite line from the entire film.
The thing that gets me with that one, though, is like, Bond knows full well, in that instance, that the 6 are gone. There's no more bullets left. This guy can't shoot. Right? So what does he do? shoots him anyway.
Yeah, but that's a lot of people had problems with that, I think, back in the day. That was very violent for 1960. I don't know if it was very violent. It was blunt. It was blunt violence. The same as the intro. It's like, oh, Bond is ruthless in this movie. He doesn't have a lot of silly quips. He has a couple of little things, but they're more sly. But we get back after the party, after the quarrel party, we get back to Bond's hotel, and things have been tampered with. How anyone touched that case and didn't notice that they just rubbed powder all over the place is beyond me. I like the attention to detail where he's opening the vodka, the Smirnoff vodka, pours a glass, and then he's like, maybe not. And he goes for a fresh bottle. There is a little bit more in the book about that. I believe it's a gin and lime that he gets. He orders it and it gets brought up to him. I could be mistaken, but he actually sends it down to a lab to get tested and all this other stuff, and it doesn't halt the momentum of the book. And there's another huge difference here. All the credit to Fleming's writing in the book. So in the movie, it's a spider that's in his bed. So he's lying in bed and they're trying to poison him with a spider.
Yeah.
In the book, it's a centipede.
Ugh.
I think it actually is a full chapter in the novel of a centipede slowly crawling, like he feels the sheets, and then he feels it on his ankle, and he feels it on his inner thigh, and he feels it like near his junk and stuff. And it is like, it's almost painful to read, because I'm not very squeamish, especially when it comes to insects, but centipedes, get those away from me.
Yeah, that's centipedes and millipedes. That's a different story. Like a spider is sort of okay. There's kind of an overreaction to that, I think, at the end of the day.
Well, a poisonous spider.
Well, yeah, but still. But there's
Right.
there's something alien and otherworldly about centipedes and millipedes, and that doesn't quite. It doesn't quite soothe the senses in the same way.
Right.
Like spiders, I can believe come from planet Earth. I think centipedes and millipedes are they're a good argument for life on another planet.
That's how I used to describe them. I have a very specific centipede thing hang up. And I used to say the same thing.
Oh, no,
like,
you didn't find
alien.
one crawling on you in the night, did you?
Dude. All right. I'm going to leave this in. I'm going on a little tangent here, but I'm leaving this in. Back between first and second year of college, I was bunking with a buddy of mine. It was sort of a rent-free place because he and his girlfriend had paid for the place for the full year, but she had to go away. It was a whole thing. Anyway, it was a basement apartment, and we worked like crazy hours, okay? And sometimes we'd work opposite shifts.
Mm-hmm.
Now, whenever he was home, no centipedes. Whenever I was home, I'd always see at least one. So one night, I'm getting home. It's dark. I click on the lights. It's a basement apartment. It's pretty dark. Pretty dingy, I guess. This isn't a luxury basement apartment. I flick on the light, and I see the biggest centipede run across the ceiling, and I'm like, okay, all right. I sit down, and I go play some Sega Genesis. And I remember this
Careful,
because
you're
it was
dating
when...
yourself now.
Oh yeah. Oh no, it wasn't. It was retro even back then. This was actually during the World Cup in Japan. So I'm dating myself now.
Mm.
So I'm sitting there on the couch and I'm waiting for the World Cup to start, and it didn't start until like 12 or 1, like midnight or 1 a.m. live because it was in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just waiting for my buddy to come home. We always had a case of Carlsberg, and we would drink all morning. And then we would sleep because we had to work in the afternoons, right? It was like later.
Carlsberg, so Liverpool fan.
Right. So I sit down on the couch. My legs are... This is right after seeing the one on the ceiling. And I'm sitting there, and one goes right between my legs. From beneath the couch right up to the TV.
Your roommate's trying to kill you. That's what's happening. Your roommate's trying to kill you.
So this was something that was going on for weeks, dude. Every single time I was home alone, I'd see a centipede. Every single time. And I was like, dude, I'm not kidding, man. This place is infested with them.
Mm.
One night, I'm there with a buddy. She sees the centipede in the laundry room, and she's like, this thing is the biggest thing I've ever seen. And I swear, dude, it was like half the size of a video game controller. the centipede above the laundry thing.
Right.
And I'm like, I can't, I'm just shivering right now thinking about it. I'm like, I can't kill that thing. Like, I'm so freaked out by these things. So she kills it because I'm a super masculine man. She kills it, blood sprayed, or whatever the hell they have inside their alien bodies, sprayed at least 3 feet in one direction. So all over the wall. All right?
Right.
No exaggerations here. It could have been even further. So I'm like, I'll clean it up. And I was like, wait, no, I'm not going to clean it up. I'm going to wait till my buddy comes home. I'm going to show him. He comes home. It's almost like dried up, gone, whatever. And he's like, whatever, so what? You know, no big deal. Anyway, fast forward to the new school year. I'm moving out because I had a couple of days before I moved into my new place.
Right.
I was only staying there for the summer.
And also millipedes.
Yeah. So we're cleaning up the joint. I'm like, hey man, do you have any bleach? We got to clean the bathroom floors. Like, we're living like single dudes, right? Like, we're not cooking at home. We're just drinking and partying, going to baseball games and working. That's all we're doing all summer.
Right.
So I'm grabbing the bleach, you know, I'm about to do, and he's like, oh yeah, there's like a little wood panel underneath the sink in the washroom. You just need to push that wood panel. So I push the wood panel and there's like a sack inside of it. And pushing that or opening that wood panel spread that sack, and all these little baby centipedes fell out of it. And they're like crawling around a little bit before they all died. And I was like, and I called him. I'm like, look, there's your proof. So every single time I read that chapter, I'm just like, oh, gotta grin and bear it and get through it. Gotta get through this chapter. Centipedes, much worse than spiders. But they're like little aliens.
Yes, the little silverfish, the ones that you can see through that get me more than anything else.
Those are the ones. Those are...
I don't understand. You're not supposed to see through things.
Yeah.
Like windows, sunglasses, you know, the bottom of a bottle of beer, fine. Right? You're not supposed to see through creatures. Jellyfish.
Man.
I don't know, there's probably some other deep-sea fish that lives at the bottom of the ocean that I hope never to see. You're not supposed to see through them.
Yeah, sea creatures are a whole other thing too, but...
Yeah, if they're playing off of his reaction to that, but with a spider instead, I now understand his otherwise complete overreaction to a spider.
In the book, the centipede is... He feels it across his eyes, and it goes over his forehead, and he can feel it going through like every follicle of hair before it ends up on his pillow. And then he rolls out of bed and vomits. He vomits profusely before he does like the bashing with his grandpa slipper. Yeah, it's totally believable from my perspective. I'm sure there are people out there that are like, whatever, it's a centipede, but no. I'm glad you feel the same way about them because they are rough. This is what I don't understand. We already talked about the Smith & Wesson part, but before that, we have a little bit of a car scene. Why does the rear projection look so bad during this car scene, but the one earlier, it looked fine? You had some nice mid shots.
I think maybe the thing that makes it so obvious, so obvious, is that they're trying to have more of a dramatic, intense, action-filled scene. Right, which means there's things moving around more. Which, if you're ever in a car, you know you as a driver move around more as well. But you move to the momentum of the vehicle. And his momentum to the vehicle just seems off. So that helps add to the fact that, okay, you got all this stuff flashing around behind him. The car isn't really moving the way you need it to for the special effect to work. I think it's a sign of the times and the technology that they're using more than anything else.
I feel like there's just no creativity.
To all intents and purposes, I believe it's a B movie too, right? It's a budget movie.
Yeah, definitely.
So they don't have time for the special effects. They don't have the money for the special effects.
That's true, but you can do a lot with just a little bit of artistic flair. Have a different angle.
Maybe they just didn't hire that guy.
Let's just get there, I guess. Quarrel helps them get to the island. We pretty much immediately meet... In the book, she's named Honeychild Rider. It's just Honey Rider in the movie. Mm-hmm. Ursula Andress, the famous, iconic scene of her coming out of the water.
Underneath the mango tree. Yeah, okay.
Right. And that's straight from the book, too, but it's a different song that he's singing back to her.
Ah, interesting. Okay.
It's a great scene. She looks terrific. He looks great too. The shape he is in, like Mr. Universe type shape.
Right.
I'm pretty sure that's why he got hired. I think someone said along the lines that he moved like a cat or something.
Yeah, there's that bit where he just sort of like hops off of the side of the tree there after he's made himself known and goes to reassure her that he's what does he say? My intentions are nothing but honorable or something.
I can assure you my intentions are strictly honorable.
Yeah, bullshit. Come on. Seriously, buddy.
Well, in the book, Fleming, he describes her in great detail. I believe she's topless in the book. He refers to her ass. It is taut like the ass of a young boy. He doesn't say ass, but he says something else.
What a strange and disturbing expression.
Moving on.
Please do. I don't want to contemplate that for very long. I don't want to contemplate that at all.
None of that in the movie, thankfully. In the book too, I think she has a mangled nose or something.
Yeah, let's focus on that. Let's focus on the mangled nose. I'm into the mangled nose right about now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good interaction.
Yeah.
There's more of her in the book, but it comes out of nowhere and it just keeps going on, with her and Bond talking and you're just sort of like, this is pointless. This feels like you're just trying to all of a sudden shoehorn this kind of weird love story or this odd fantasy or something. The book from this point on is where it starts to bore me a little. And Quarrel is still bumbling about.
Yeah, get in, get out, plan to come back again, I don't know.
Well, the villains start coming down on them. We have the dudes in the boat with the megaphone.
Come on out! We know you're there! We've been expecting you!
The worst ADR of 1962 at least. Full speed ahead! And he's not even talking into the megaphone when he says that. That part drives me crazy. It always has. Because he turns his head. Yeah, we just get a lot of pissing around on the island here, I think it's kind of clever how they escape the dogs. We'll be back with the dogs.
The Reeds, yeah.
It's a beautiful movie when it doesn't get in the way of itself. I think we could use a lot more of these setup scenes where you're seeing these beautiful islands and stuff, but we don't get any of that. We get these like the close-up shots, and that's pretty much it. And then we meet the dragon, and poor Quarrel.
Yep.
They did what they could, special effects-wise.
I think as soon as you get to the dragon, it starts... the dragon, as campy as it is, also marks that sudden change from everything that's happened before. You get to this bit, which is super campy for all of maybe a minute and a half, and then they're into the lair and the decontamination. The decontamination conveyor belt.
And it's like, I really like the clothing here, like the
minion suits.
The minion suits. No, the actual clothing that they give Honey and Bond. Okay. It's like those Eastern get-ups. It looks really nice. Like I don't know who the costume designer was here. How great is that set design? That's Ken Adam right there. That's before we see his later stuff where it's like crazy volcano layer crap. This is a really sexy set.
Mm-hmm.
You have the huge fish tank with the magnifying glass on it, the trees and stuff.
Yeah.
Inside,
it's impressive. It's an impressive lair.
It's really neat looking in that room, but Young does nothing to show it off, right? It's just a static, flat mid-shot when he walks in, and you're like, show off this room a little bit.
Now, the one thing Bond does do is he does pause for a second to look at the painting.
Right, yeah.
Right? So, I was curious about that, so I checked it out. That painting is The Duke of Wellington by Goya. Now, that painting was stolen the year before. It was stolen in 1961. So this would have been in the newspapers, on the radio, TV if you had one, though it would have been black and white, probably. And so at the time of this movie being released, probably everybody was aware of this painting. They'd probably seen reprints of it. Maybe they'd been, here, buy a poster and stick it up for a little bit of fun. Because in 1965, so this is after Dr. No, of course, but in 1965, the Daily Mirror newspaper received an anonymous letter with a left luggage receipt. So here, I'm going to book my luggage in. Here's a receipt, come and reclaim it. For the Birmingham New Street train station. They eventually tracked it to a guy, I believe his name was Kempton Bunton. And somehow, this guy must have had amazing lawyers, solicitors. Somehow, he managed to successfully claim that he had never wanted to keep the painting to begin with, and consequently it was never stolen. He only got 3 months. 3 months jail time for stealing this painting from the National Gallery in London.
That's
But
really neat.
that's the painting that Bond pauses and looks at.
Yeah.
Obviously recognizing that this is the painting that got stolen, and now it's sitting here in this lair in Crab Key, Jamaica.
Among all of his antiquities, Joseph Wiseman plays Dr. No, and he is great despite the awful eye makeup. I think they could have just done without that. Wiseman was a theatrical actor, and you can tell. Everyone else feels like a low-budget television actor in this movie. Even Jack Lord is kind of hamming it up a little bit. Like, this would be before Hawaii Five-0, which was a terrific show. Wiseman really pops. I really like him because I'm a huge Twilight Zone fan, and he was in an episode of, I think, just one. He was also in Night Gallery, which was Rod Serling's second show, but he often played, unfortunately, like a lot of these like cheesy B-movie roles. He plays it just hammy enough. He's not chewing the scenery. He's keeping it pretty tame, and he is kind of menacing as the titular character. What a dumb name, though, eh? Dr. No.
I mean, it's as good as any other, I suppose, but it doesn't really elaborate on anything in any particular way. It doesn't seem to relate to anything. Like, I mean, it could be, I don't know, pick anything that sounds vaguely Asian, I suppose. Like Dr. Yen, or Dr. Shi, or Dr. I was going to say Dr. Jones, but, obviously. Well, it might as well be.
Maybe it's actually super clever. It is memorable. It is unusual enough that it gets your attention. So, I don't know. The whole interaction here with they send Honey away, and the whole thing between Connery and Wiseman is really good. The whole back and forth. It really shows how good Connery is as well.
Well, it kind of starts with that comment about the Dom Perignon 55, I think it is. And, that would be a shame to waste that. Well, I prefer the 53 myself.
It's a Dom Perignon 55. It would be a pity to break it.
I prefer the 53 myself.
So, somebody much smarter than I actually noticed that, and you might be able to confirm this, that the novel Moonraker came out in 1955, whereas the first novel, Casino Royale, came out in 53. Some people seem to think that it's a reference to those novels. Oh, I prefer Casino Royale to the Moonraker myself. Right? And there's another thing that seems to play into this a little bit later in the series.
Moonraker is a fantastic book. It's one of his better books.
Okay.
So I don't know if you're pulling that from IMDb, I wouldn't take too much stock in it.
No.
That could be correct. But he was releasing books like every year after 53, I believe.
Now, that being said, I also did look up the reviews to Dom Perignon 55 and Dom Perignon 53, and as near as I can tell, they do taste different, but they're both pretty good. So, it's a little difference. They're not the same, but they're both really good.
Anyone favor one over the other?
Didn't seem like it, quite honestly.
No.
It really didn't seem like it. But again, I am no expert, and I'm not about to go buy every vintage of Dom Perignon I can find just to test the theory.
Come on, man. You got the cash?
Oh, right. Yeah, me and my dead body.
From here, it just becomes like a straight-up action flick. This is where we get the reveal of Spectre. I think at this point, it's still Smersh in the books. No, I think maybe this is when it turns to Spectre, because Smersh is a Russian thing, and Spectre is a little bit different. He's trying to get Bond to join this evil organization, and he's just like, nah, I'm not doing that. They rough him up a little bit and put him in a cell. Why they don't just kill him? Well, it's a Bond movie.
Well, there is that reference to being just a stupid policeman,
Unfortunately, I misjudged you. You are just a stupid policeman.
His line delivery is fantastic. It's not too over the top. In the book, he fights a gigantic octopus at some point here.
I don't remember that from the movie.
No. He gets through the ducts all Die Hard style before entering the 50s sci-fi bus depot set piece where everyone's just basically standing around and would you say the Minions suits?
Yes.
The Bubble Boy suits? That's straight 50s, man. That's just straight 50s sci-fi.
What I wouldn't have done to hear Connery say yippee-ki-yay, though. Come on.
Go to the island, have a few laughs. Yeah, he basically sabotages the whole thing like super quickly and efficiently.
Yes.
He knew where everything was in that warehouse. Ken Adam, maybe he was running out of money. I know movies aren't done in a linear way.
Oh, I don't know if you're giving enough credit to the 00 training. Come on, man.
Yeah, I guess so. He knew exactly what he was in for. But yeah, it's just him sabotaging everything. The place is about to explode, I guess. And he has to find Honey, of course, who was taken out of the dinner early. And she is strapped down to the most elaborate loading ramp. With water slowly filling it. Like, what? Just kill her. If you're gonna kill her, just kill her. Stuff like that, it really gets me in these Bond movies. They're just fun, stupid popcorn movies, but like...
Oh, it's a little bit of the, okay, let's do we're gonna tie you down to the railroad tracks and wait for the train to come, and we're gonna sneakily be giggling behind the tree or whatever else it happens to be.
Twirling the mustache.
Exactly. But we'll be a little bit more elaborate and do it with, I don't know, a nuclear weapon or something.
Strangway and True Blood at the beginning. It's just boom, boom, done. You know? But I understand why they let Bond live. He explains it. He's like, well, he thought there might be a place for him in the organization. I get that. But what is she doing still alive? Bond saves her before the water slowly creeps up to probably in a couple of weeks. She probably starved to death before the water gets there. Or maybe we're doing a tide sort of situation when the tide comes in. Who knows?
Right.
But it's like it's really snappy how it ends. The action scene and then the movie's over.
Pretty much. Using the disabled guy's disability against him as he can't climb anything. But yeah,
right.
Outside of that, we're stuck in a boat.
What I do like is how they don't... He's not turned into a complete... Like, he is a supervillain, but he's not like a comic-style supervillain with those hands. It's a disfigurement. It's not like something that, yes, he has to get help getting a cigarette and lighting it and stuff like that. It's not played up like Jaws later on. And
you mean he doesn't have, like, spinny saw discs or something attached inside?
Right. We're not going Pierce Brosnan quite yet, like... But that's what I dig. I dig that about this movie. Like, I dig how grounded it is. I mean, it's still silly and over the top, and it is a B movie. It's there are elements of, like, we've been talking about, like, pulp noir and stuff. This is one of my favorite Bond movies. I was going to say, I think we're going to rank these as we go. Obviously, this is number one right now with a bullet for me. Right. Out of the one we've looked at. But I really like Dr. No. I'd be surprised by the end of this entire... whatever this thing is, this bonding over beers.
Right.
I'd be surprised if it's any lower than 6th or 7th by the end of all this. This is one of my favorites. It's one I go back to a lot. Like, when I want a grounded James Bond movie, it's this one. It's from Rush with Love, and a few others we'll eventually discuss. But I really like it. I really like how cold he is. You don't seem to enjoy it as much as I do.
Like I say, I have a hard time placing it within the realm of what the Bond movies will come to be, even immediately after this. It feels like such a different genre, almost, that I have a hard time placing it within the rest of the categories. Because of that, and trying to... I suppose to a certain extent it depends on what you consider a Bond movie to be, right? And honestly, to me, like, some of it is that campiness. It's that quippiness. It's some of the ridiculous schoolboy character and charm that Bond himself sort of embraces. And as well as the gadgetry and sort of like the, oh, I'm going to take this like absolutely insane risk and somehow it's going to work out for me. All of that stuff instead of hard-boiled, just a stupid detective. So to me, that actually takes away a lot of it so far as a ranking is concerned as a Bond movie. I want to caveat that by saying not as a movie.
I'm a big fan of the books. I understand it's not high reading. I like the really grounded Bond, and we'll get into that. And I think we're gonna enjoy some of the same movies together. But I like fewer gadgets. I like fewer ladies, damsels, I should say, or window dressing gals. I prefer less of that. I want the villains to be somewhat grounded. But then again, I'm going to contradict myself once we get to the Roger Moore episodes too. So I think this is a less fun Bond. That's fair to say, right?
Yeah. Yep. Very much so. There's less like you're getting an introduction to the character at this point. You're not seeing his fun side and his charm coming out yet. You're just getting you're getting the foundation makeup, not the eyeshadow.
Recognise this? One of the first tunes I ever played on stylophone. Stylophone, the unique musical instrument anyone can play. The stylophone pocket electronic organ by Dubrek.